Hey YouTube, and welcome back to Mike's Mini Motors. So in the last episode you seen we gave Big Booty Trudy, the C3, some new shoes and a little bit of a facelift. But since then, one thing I want to point out, and a big shout out to David of the Underbone group on Facebook. The stock plastics here were all faded and stuff like that. I wasn't quite sure what to do with them, and I wasn't going to plasti dip them because this is where my feet ride, and so it'd probably just peel off anyways. He told me to hit this with some heat, and it brought it back to life quite a bit. It's still not perfect, but it's way better than it was. So thanks, David. That was a great suggestion. But in this episode, what we're going to be doing is swapping this out. Well, not all of the controls, but the bars, the mirrors, and the turn signals. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to grab the camera, and I'll show you the parts that we're going to be putting on this thing. So let's get to it. All right, so let's go over the parts real quick of what we're going to be installing today. So first off, I just got some NCY 7/8 drag bars. Nice thing is the C3 stock bars are just like the handlebar clamps are just a normal like dirt bike style. I don't know if there's a name for it, but so I don't need to buy like a steering stem adapter or anything like you do for the Ruckus. So that's one nice thing. So that's going to drop the bars down a little bit. Probably about the same pullback, but and then I got some new grips because the ones that are on there, they're old and they're not soft rubber anymore. It feels more like hard plastic. So that'll be a nice change there. And we're gonna get rid of the big stock mirrors and go with some bar end mirrors. These ones are almost identical to the ones I have on my Ruckus. And then I found these little LED blinkers I'm gonna install. There's a tiny little thing, and they're actually switchback lights. So this one it's not just a blinker, it has a running light in it as well. So when the bike's just on, this will be illuminated white, and then when I hit the blinker, the white will turn off and the blinker will go. So, and then when you turn the blinker off, it goes right back to the running light. Oh, excuse me. So that'll just be a nice little added touch just to have the extra running light, especially since these scooters aren't very big and extra visibility is always nice. But since we're doing the LED blinkers, we also need to install this guy, which is just one of the little LED blinker relays. So before we can start on this stuff, what I do need to do is tear that front end apart again. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that on hyperlapse real quick. Alright, so now that we got the front end disassembled here, I can go ahead and start disassembling the actual controls here. So I can pull the mirrors off, the controls, pull these old blinkers off, and then I do actually have to slide the old controls off. So I'm going to do all that, get it all disassembled, and then we'll get to assembling. Now that everything's pulled off of here, it's time to remove the bars. And to do that, it's really simple. Get out of the way. It's just these little caps here. Just wiggle off. Another one wiggled off. I haven't had this one off yet. Yeah. There we go. And there's just two 6mm Allen heads here on each one. Alright, there's the other one, and now she's naked. But now it's time to reassemble, but I'm going to do that tomorrow because it's late. So see you guys in just a couple seconds, and we'll get back to assembling. Yeah, one other thing I was going to share with you guys real quick, it's a good thing that we're replacing these mirrors because actually the one on this side was cross-threaded in there somehow, and so when I went to take it out, it just snapped off. So luckily it snapped flush, so won't bother me any. All right, yeah, just wanted to throw that in there real quick. All right, so now that I'm back at it, just putting the handlebars on. I'm just gonna go right back here. Actually, I got them upside down, only because the NCY logo. And then I'm just gonna go right in here, and I'm going to put the caps on. All right, one thing to show you guys on these handlebar clamps too, if you look on one of the bolt holes, or right above the bolt, let's see if we can, right there you can kind of see it. There's a little up arrow, and that's just showing you that that goes up like this on the handlebar. Ow. Just hit my knee on the lift. That was fun. So one thing I was going to point out too that I do is just from here to here, I just try to take a measurement and then come around to the other side and make sure they're pretty dang close, just so that your bars are centered. So I think right now I'm about a 1/4 inch too far this way. Ah! I gotta stop hitting my knee on this thing. I'm not used to having it this low. Okay, and then just put the caps back on. All right, and voila, our drag bars are on now. So next, I'm gonna go ahead and get this grip on because it'll be the easy one. Alright, so I got the first grip on, and if you guys didn't see, I did put one on there and then pull it back off and switch it to this one, because there's actually two different internal diameters here. One to go over just the bar here, and then one to go over your throttle tube. And speaking of this throttle tube, the Yamaha one has, there we go, all these little ridges and everything on it, and then even like a big hex, or just tabs. Sorry, I can't talk right now. That I had to cut the old grip off just to get it off there. But one, to get this grip on here, and two, to get, since we're going the bar end mirrors, I gotta chop this off. So I'm gonna do that real quick, and then we can get the grip put on this throttle tube. Well, made real quick work of that on the bandsaw. Just it's off. All right, so now I can get this grip put on here. Just push it in. And I'm not putting any glue on these of any kind right now. I do have some grip glue somewhere that if I end up feeling like I need it, then I'll put it on, but I usually don't need it. Okay, I'm gonna do the rest of this off camera because these little nubs are kind of a pain. Alright, got the grip on the throttle tube. I did end up having to trim a couple of tabs here, like you see that were on the bottom that I cut off. And then finally got it to fit on there. So what I need to do now is get the controls mounted on there. And one thing to point out, zoom in. If you look on this piece here, there's a little bump right here, right in the where the hole, or excuse me, where the bar would go. So we need to measure where we want these to sit and drill a hole into the handlebar, so that that can sit in there, and then that keeps it from clocking around the bar and moving side to side. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done for both sides. I'll do that in hyperlapse, and then we'll get back to it. Alright, got our controls on there, so those are all good to go. And by the way, these double cable throttle, I don't know what you call them, one with the push, one with the pull. That's a pain in the butt. But hey, I got it. Okay, so now we're moving on to the bar end mirrors. Alright, to mount these bar end mirrors, it's pretty simple. What we gotta do first is, you see there's no hole here. Well, I mean there is, but not nearly big enough. We gotta fit this guy in there. Anyways, it's gotta go in the bar. So I'll take my razor, cut the plastic or rubber out, and then put these in there, and then screw the mirrors to it. That's it. So there's both the bar end mirrors put on. I went ahead and put that one on off camera because it's the same as this one. But also, I originally said that these were easy to put in. These ones were not so much. The part that goes into the handlebar didn't want to flare very well, so I had to put it in the vise and flare it, or pre-flare it, I guess you'd call it. And anyways, got them on there, and they're on. And now the last thing we have left is the blinkers. But one thing is, I was originally thinking about mounting them off of here where the old mirror stocks were, but this one here, since it was cross-threaded, it sheared off inside there, and I don't feel like drilling and tapping it out, so I'm going to have to think of another option. But yeah, I'll do that as I go. Since all of the controls are down now, since all of the controls up here and the mirrors and stuff, we're done with that. Last thing we got left is to do these blinkers. So originally, like I had said, I was going to put them on the controls here where the mirrors were mounted, but this one came out fine. This one here was cross-threaded or rusted in. Either way, it sheared off, so that's going to be a no-go because I don't feel like trying to tap or get that out of there. So my alternate solution is I'm going to actually go right here. So the side cover that slides on, the bolt that holds it on, it's actually got a hole and it's threaded on the other side. So this will go in here like that, and then this will bolt on there like that, and then it'll be my running light and blinker. So I've already got these connectorized, and I'm actually using my 3D printed connectors. I got a new printer and some resin I'm trying, and so what better than a real world test? So I'm gonna put these in here, and then I have the mating side here that I'm gonna have to swap this out so I can pull this old blinker off. But because these aftermarket LED ones, they have the running light, I need to add a third wire here. That's just gonna be a 12-volt switch off the ignition, and I'm sure I'll find one in here. I just gotta do some digging, or I'll go find a wiring diagram online. But yeah, so I need to depin these, put them into my new connector, and then get my running light. Here you can see I got my 3D printed connectors I've made. One nice thing so far is I test fit these here with the actual mating connector. The nice thing is because these pins are kind of a, so we can put this in the camera. The pins can move, and if you just force it, they'll bend. But with these connectors, since they're that kind of smoky black see-through, you can actually see where your pins are and kind of wiggle this until it actually connects. So that's one nice benefit. But on here, you can see I did go from the stock connectors, which were just a 2-pin, to a 3-pin because I'm adding my running light. And just pulled up a wiring diagram for this C3 and seen that the brown wire is a switched ignition source. So right here, this brown wire feeding the gauge cluster up here, I'm going to tap into that, split the wires down to here, and then we should be able to plug them in. Alright, I'm going to show you guys how I splice into wires on, like, say this is the OEM switch ignition wire. How you can tap into it without compromising this or even cutting the wire. So what I do is I take my wire strippers, and you just kind of, so this looks like it's about 18 gauge. You're not stripping the wire, but you're just kind of cutting the insulation in one point and then another. And then you take a razor blade, and be careful you don't cut yourself or cut through the wire, and shave this insulation off. Take that blade back so I don't cut myself. And then once you can get that peeled off, oh, I got one wire cut. What I do is I have a pick here, and I poke a hole in the center of the bundle of strands and make myself a loop. See, this will focus. You can kind of see that. Sorry, it's not focusing a little bit better than that. There we go. And then I have my two wires here. I'm using red with the black, there should be red with the yellow striped wire just because that's what we use at work and I had some extra I brought home. So what you do is then you take your wire here and tuck it through that hole and then pinch it off. So you close the hole, then wrap this around. Like so. And then next I'm just gonna solder it and then insulate it. And then we should be able to run these to these connectors, put pins on them, and we'll have it running lights. Alright, so I went ahead and got this soldered, and now I'm going to tape it. So there's no shorts. And one thing I highly recommend is don't use just the cheapest electrical tape you can find. Because it won't stick very well, it'll fall off, you can get shorts, all sorts of stuff. So what I use is 3M Super 33 electrical tape. It's only a couple bucks at like Home Depot, Lowe's, places like that. I'll actually put a link in the description because it's the best electrical tape I've found so far without spending an arm and a leg. So now it's insulated, and now I'm just going to get these ran to these two connectors, pinned out here in pin 3, and then we should be able to plug in our lights. So we got the 12 volt switched running here to our connector again so that it runs into the running light here. And one thing I didn't point out earlier, which I should, the wiring on these blinkers, it didn't come with any instruction, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You got white, yellow, and black. So black is your ground, yellow is your blinker, white's your running light. But let me go ahead and turn the ignition on. Ooh, we got a running light. And right now I'm plugged into the left blinker, so let's turn that on. Uh-oh. It's not blinking. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what the reason why. But we've got to switch out this guy. This is our LED blinker relay. Replaces the stock one. And luckily, this one that I picked up from Amazon is a direct replacement for the one in here. Just use the same connector, everything. So that'll be really easy. I will go ahead and get this camera to the other side of the bike because it's actually over on this side. And that way you guys can see how that's done. Alright, starting this flip, just a little zoomed out just so you guys can see where this thing is located. Because if I'm zoomed in, it probably doesn't really show you much. But right here on the front of the bike, that is your blinker relay. So let me zoom in again. Alright. And then, like I said, this one's this replacement one I got is a drop-in replacement. I just need to pull this off, undo the connector. I do need to reuse this little rubber boot, so I will just try my best to slide that off without breaking it. Throw that one down there. This one's already a little tight. Okay, I'm gonna pause the video and I'll get this rubber thingy on here. Alright, well, I got that little rubber boot on there now. That's probably the hardest part of this relay switch, because it was just a little bit tighter. Doesn't want to focus. Well, anyways, it's going to stay focused where we're working. It was just a little tighter, but I got it. So now, as you can see, it's just a 2-pin connector off by 90 degrees. This guy has 2 tabs off by 90 degrees. And if you see it down here, see that little screw-looking hole? That's a potentiometer. You can use that to adjust the flash rate of your blinkers. So it just plugs right in. And slide it back onto the factory tab. Just like so. And now let's try our blinker. I think we still have one more thing to do before this works. So let's just try it. Look at the running light. And blinker. Oh, it is working, except for, look, they're both blinking. So we're going both directions at the same time. This is what I was talking about, where I was thinking we're probably gonna have to do something. Because, let me turn off the blinker. Up in the gauge cluster up here, there's the blinker indicator, which is an incandescent bulb. So it's not directional, like LEDs will only flow electricity one direction. An incandescent bulb will flow it both ways, so it's probably back feeding through that. So I'm going to pull that out real quick, and then we'll see if she blinks properly. Alright, one little test I'm going to do before I tear into the gauge cluster. I did take it off, and so here's all the connectors for it. So since it's unplugged, that incandescent bulb isn't in the equation. So I'm going to try seeing how this does. So I'll turn it on. You can see the different blinkers. This one is the left blinker, this one's the right blinker. Working as intended. And working as intended. So yeah, it's going to be that incandescent bulb, so I'm going to get that pulled out of the gauge cluster, and we'll get it bolted back together. So here's the little tiny incandescent bulb. So right now I'm not going to have a blinker indicator appear on my gauge cluster, but I'm used to it on my Ruckus, so it's not that big of a deal. I could get an LED one of these if I wanted to replace it, but eventually this is going to go away anyways, because right now it only shows the bike going up to, I think it's 40? Yeah, 40. But I already hit like 38 right now as it is, and so when I unrestrict this thing and do some more work to it, I'm going to be going past the capabilities of this, so it would just be nice to have like a digital cluster. So this, not too worried about right now, but let's give it a test. Now that everything's plugged back in, let's do the blinkers again, and bam. All right, so we're good to go. So now it's just time to slap this thing back together. Alright, so she's back together, and now let's make sure everything works. So, sorry, because the bench is so close to the front of the bike, I can only get the camera close enough to see this one. So we'll go ahead and do that. The key on. And bam, we got our running light. And our blinker. Go to the other side, you might see the glow of it. Nope, not even that. But yeah, you can see here, like I was saying, they're switchback, so it's blinking the amber color when it's the actual blinker, and then when you release the blinker, it just goes back to a white running light, which just adds a little extra visibility, which is definitely nice on these small scooters. Alright, so Big Booty Trudy now has a new bar setup. The controls are still stock for now, but we've got our NCY drag bars, our better grips that are a lot grippier, and I really like them so far. And our bar end mirrors, and then we also got our LED blinkers installed with the running lights, which will just be a nice added feature, just because any more lights you can get on these things to be more visible is great, because they're not that big to begin with. So next thing I have left to do to get this thing back on the road is I'm going to pull this taillight back out and do an LED, actually I have right over here, LED taillight strip, I'm actually going to put 2 of them in there. And then actually just yesterday, straight from Japan, I got these guys. These are just the lenses. And because stock, it's got a red lens, but the LED taillight I have actually has red LEDs, so I don't need the red lens. So I picked up the smoked and the clear, because I wasn't sure which one I was gonna like best, and so just pick them up both because they're pretty cheap. They're like 20 bucks. And yeah, I can switch them out if I want. So if you guys aren't subscribed yet and want to see this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that little notification bell. So that you get notified when I got new videos coming out. If you liked this build series, or even any of the other ones I like, give me a like. If you got any feedback or comments you'd like to say, just leave me a comment. And with that, I will see you guys in the next episode. See you guys later. And so hopefully people will be able to see me better. If not, then I'll just be a greasy spot on the road. I didn't like it.